You are causing a disturbance in my lobby.
I am just standing here. You are making a huge scene, ma'am.
The marble lobby gleamed like polished ice, cold, pristine, and utterly silent except for the clicking of heels. Maya Thompson adjusted her tailored navy blazer and stepped toward the reception desk of the Grand Orion Hotel, the most expensive business suite in Manhattan. She was early, always was. Her company's quarterly board meeting was scheduled upstairs, top floor, private room, booked under M. Thompson Holdings. The front desk manager didn't even look up. "Deliveries go through the service entrance," he said flatly, tapping on his keyboard. Maya froze. The tone wasn't new, but it still landed like a slap. Her ID badge gleamed gold against her blouse. "I'm not a delivery person," she said quietly. "I'm a guest. CEO suite." He finally looked up, frowning, eyes scanning her face, her skin, her hair. Then came the smile, polite but thin and brittle. "Ah, of course. But that suite is reserved for our corporate clientele. Perhaps there's been a mix-up." Behind her, two white men in suits breezed past, greeted with champagne and warm laughter. The manager's posture changed instantly, straightening, voice smooth. Maya watched him hand them VIP passes that should have been hers. Her phone buzzed. A text from her assistant. "They just announced your company's new investor upstairs, Orion Capital." Her pulse thudded. Orion Capital, the very firm she'd come to meet. The same one now pretending not to recognize her. Maya's voice dropped to a razor edge. "You might want to check that list again." The manager smirked, lowering his voice to a whisper that cut through the marble air. "Ma'am, I did." The security guards began walking toward her. Maya didn't move. Her reflection stared back from the marble floor, calm, furious, unbroken. Then the elevator chimed, and out stepped the man who owned the building. The elevator doors slid open with a sterile chime. Maya Thompson stood in the lobby, spine straight, pulse steady, though her jaw ached from holding back words she'd swallowed too many times before. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to wait outside," the security guard said, shifting his weight, one hand hovering near his radio. Her fingers tightened around the handle of her briefcase. "I have a meeting," she said evenly. "Orion Capital, 10th floor." The front desk manager, the same man who'd mistaken her for staff minutes earlier, leaned in, smiling like the situation amused him. "That floor is closed to public access. You'll need authorization." "I am the authorization," Maya replied. The silence that followed was sharp enough to hear the hum of the air conditioning. Across the lobby, two men in tailored suits watched, their whispers barely masked by polite chuckles. One pulled out his phone and began recording. Then Richard Kane entered. Tall, silver hair, expensive watch. The kind of presence that made people straighten their backs instinctively. The owner of the Grand Orion, his gaze swept across the scene, instantly assessing hierarchy. "What's going on here?" he asked, voice deep, controlled. The manager spoke quickly. "A guest attempting to access a restricted area, sir." Kane's eyes landed on Maya. For a flicker of a moment, confusion crossed his face, as if her confidence didn't align with what he thought he saw. "Restricted means restricted," he said coolly. "If you're looking for housekeeping or catering, that's not your entrance." Maya exhaled slowly. "I'm here for a meeting with Orion Capital. Scheduled, confirmed." Kane's expression didn't change. "And your name?" "Maya Thompson." A pause. Then the faintest smirk. "Right. I think I've heard that name somewhere," he said. The kind of line meant to sound polite but loaded with disbelief. "We'll have someone check. In the meantime, please step aside. You're holding up the lobby." The guard motioned toward the doors. People watched. Phones lifted. The marble gleam of the floor seemed to reflect her isolation back at her. One woman standing in the middle of a silent judging room. Her phone buzzed. Her assistant's text lit up the screen. "Orion Capital just announced you as their newest investor partner." "Congrats, boss." The irony hit like static in her veins. She looked up, met Kane's gaze and outer, and spoke quietly. "I think you'll be seeing more of me, Mr. Kane." He raised an eyebrow. "Oh, and why's that?" The elevator behind him pinged open again. Inside stood the Orion Capital board. Their chairman, sweating slightly, spotted Maya and froze mid-step. "Ms. Thompson," he stammered. We didn't expect you so early." The entire lobby turned. Maya stepped forward, voice calm, deliberate. It seems your staff didn't either. Kane's composure faltered, the faint twitch of realization dawning. The executives exchanged looks, one clearing his throat awkwardly. The same manager who'd dismissed her stood paralyzed. Maya didn't smile. She didn't need to. Shall we? She said, stepping into the elevator. The doors closed, sealing the silence behind her. The conference room's glass walls reflected a skyline of ambition. Steel towers, mirrored windows, the city's pulse beating far below. Inside, the air was cool, too still, the kind of quiet that wrapped around power like perfume. Maya sat at the head of the table, posture precise, expression unreadable. Across from her, 6 board members murmured among themselves. Most avoided her eyes. The Orion Capital representatives sat to the side, 2 men, 1 woman, polite smiles fixed in place, pretending last night's lobby spectacle hadn't happened. Congratulations. Ms. Thompson, said David Cole, her CFO, a man with a smile honed by decades of corporate diplomacy. The Orion partnership is a remarkable milestone. Milestone? Maya's tone was flat. Or merger. A ripple passed across the table. Nervous laughter, too brief to feel natural. David cleared his throat. Of course, you retain full control. Orion's investment is purely advisory. But naturally, with their capital injection, they'll expect certain strategic oversight. Oversight, Maya repeated. The word tasted bitter. That's an elegant way to say control. Cole hesitated. It's just business, Maya. You know how these things work. Optics matter. She turned her gaze toward him. Optics. The word hung there, heavy, deliberate. Everyone in the room understood its meaning, though no one spoke it. Optics meant they don't trust a black woman to lead. Across the table, one of the Orion partners, Jared Lang, 30-something, Harvard tie, practiced grin, leaned forward. We think you've done something truly impressive here. But the market's changing fast. Investors like to see a familiar leadership structure. It builds confidence. Maya didn't blink. Familiar? Lang adjusted his cufflinks. I just mean, experienced hands. You're clearly brilliant. But imagine how much smoother things could run with someone seasoned guiding strategy. It's about stability. Someone seasoned, she said softly. You mean someone who looks like you? The silence that followed was absolute. David Cole stepped in quickly. Let's not turn this into... I'm not turning it into anything, Maya said, voice low but sharp. It already is something. I'm just naming it. She stood, walked to the floor-to-ceiling window and stared down at the city. The view was vast, anonymous, but every light below represented someone trying to climb the same impossible ladder she had. I built this company from scratch, she said, from my apartment. While you were interviewing candidates with golf club memberships, I was writing code at 3 a.m. and cold emailing clients who ghosted me when they saw my LinkedIn photo. Cole exhaled through his nose. No one's questioning your dedication. They're questioning my right to sit here, she replied. The Orion team exchanged glances, small, nervous movements. Lang smiled again, the smile of a man trained never to appear cornered. Look, Miss Thompson, we're all on the same side here, but business thrives on predictability. The board feels it. The board, she cut in, turning to face them, will recall that I hold majority voting shares, so the board feels nothing I don't approve. A tremor ran through the room. Not fear, but recalibration. Cole raised his hand slightly, placating. No one's against you, Maya. We're just suggesting a guiding hand. Someone like Richard Kane. His experience, Richard Kane, she repeated slowly. The man who had security escort me out of his lobby? Cole's mouth opened, then closed. Lang coughed. Unfortunate misunderstanding. Mr. Kane didn't know who you were. Exactly, she said. He didn't know who I was. And that's the point. Maya gathered her papers methodically without looking up. The silence stretched until the room itself seemed to shrink around her. Then she spoke again, quiet, firm. Let me save everyone time. There will be no advisory oversight, no guiding hand, and no adjustments to leadership structure. Lang tried one last angle. You're passionate, Ms. Thompson, but business requires compromise. She looked directly at him. Passion built this. Compromise almost destroyed it. Her phone buzzed. She checked it briefly. A message from her assistant. Private investor call at 4. Confirmed. Her eyes lingered on the screen for half a second longer than necessary. She turned back to the table. Meeting adjourned. As she left, the whispers began immediately, hushed voices. Beneath the hum of the air, conditioner, she's emotional. She's going to burn bridges. She doesn't understand how this game works. Maya heard every word. But when the glass door closed behind her, she smiled, not out of satisfaction, but clarity. They thought she was cornered. They had no idea she was already drawing the map. The rain that afternoon fell in silver threads against the glass of Maya's office. The city below blurred into shifting reflections, headlights, umbrellas, motion without direction. She stood at her desk, staring at an old photo framed in silver, herself years younger, standing outside a co-working space with nothing but a laptop and a dream that no one believed in. Behind every smile, her mentor once told her, there's a bruise they'll never ask about. Her mentor's name had been Denise Ward, a black woman executive at a major tech firm, one of the few who had ever reached the C-suite. Denise had found Maya when she was still an intern, exhausted and invisible. She'd pulled her aside after a meeting where Maya's idea was praised, but credited to someone else. Don't correct him, Denise had whispered. Not yet. Let him think it was his win. Next time you make sure he needs you to win again. That was years ago, and it had worked. Painfully, perfectly. Now Maya replayed those lessons in her mind like old songs with sharper lyrics. Every smile she'd forced, every thank you she'd given to men who'd taken credit, every promotion she'd earned twice over just to get half as far, all of it was currency. Her assistant, Jordan, entered quietly holding a tablet. Press is still calling about the Orion deal. They want a statement. No statements, Maya said. Let them guess what I'm thinking. Keeps them nervous, Jordan hesitated. About what happened at the hotel. Do you want to bury it? Maya said quickly. No leaks. No outrage cycle. That's not my weapon. Jordan nodded. Understood. When he left, Maya sat leaning back in her chair. Her reflection in the window looked calm, but her mind was a quiet storm. She remembered her first interview out of grad school, a marketing firm that loved her resume until she arrived. The receptionist had looked surprised, as if she'd walked into the wrong office. You're Maya? She'd asked. We were expecting someone else? Maya had replied with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. The hiring manager spent most of the meeting talking about fit. She didn't get the job. Years later, when she launched her own company, that same firm tried to partner with her. She declined the meeting without explanation. In the reflection of her office window, she could still see Denise's face. Strong, unflinching. They used to meet every Friday in a cafe that smelled of burnt espresso and ambition. Denise always ordered black coffee. Never let them mistake you for sweet, she'd say. They only respect bitter. Maya smiled faintly. You were right, Dee. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Heard what happened at Orion. They'll try to box you out. Want to talk strategy? A. Monroe, her pulse steadied. She knew that name, Anthony Monroe, founder of Sterling Group Investments, one of the most discreet and powerful private capital firms in the city. She typed back, tomorrow, noon, then paused. Deleted the message. Rewrote it. Make it tonight. She hit send. The rain thickened outside, streaking the glass like veins. Her thoughts returned to Denise, her mentor's final lesson before she retired. They'd been walking through a lobby almost identical to the Grand Orion's. Marble mirrors, 1,000 invisible rules. Power doesn't shout, Denise had said, stopping at the elevator. It signs checks. Maya remembered that line like scripture. Back then she hadn't understood it. Now she did because she was done shouting. She was ready to buy the room. She pulled up her computer, opening a private document, a spreadsheet of corporate structures, silent partnerships, and shell holdings. In the center, highlighted in gold, Orion Capital Holdings. Her cursor hovered over it. Behind the smile she wore for the world, a new expression took shape, colder, sharper, almost serene. This wouldn't be revenge. It would be correction, and she wouldn't need anyone's permission to make it happen. The city lights flickered across her reflection like embers in a storm. Maya closed her laptop and whispered to the empty room. Not a vow, but a plan taking form. They'll remember my name this time. The next morning, Maya walked through the revolving doors of Sterling Group's headquarters, black marble floors, minimalist lighting, No wasted words or movement. The kind of place where silence itself felt like money. Anthony Monroe was waiting in the private lounge, navy suit, sleeves rolled to his forearms, smile subtle but sharp. "You look calm," he said. "That's either good news or a trap." "Both," Maya replied, setting her briefcase down. "I need your help buying Orion Capital." He blinked once in the only sign of surprise, then leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "The same firm that just invested in you?" "The same one," she said. He studied her, calculating. "You're not after revenge." "No, I'm after control." A long pause. Then Monroe smiled faintly. "That's better. Revenge burns fast. Control compounds." They talked for 2 hours, the conversation alternating between whispers and silence. Maya outlined her plan. A series of anonymous shell companies buying Orion's shares quietly through offshore intermediaries. A full acquisition hidden beneath legal fog. "You're playing a dangerous game," Monroe said finally. "I'm playing their game," Maya replied. "Just better." He nodded once. "Then you'll need a firewall." "I'll assemble one." "You'll stay invisible until the final move." She stood, extending her hand. "Done." He didn't shake immediately. "One more thing. When this is over, what do you want them to see when they finally realize who owns them?" Maya thought for a moment. A mirror. For the next 6 weeks, she moved like smoke, everywhere and nowhere. Meetings were held in parked cars, encrypted calls over burner phones, legal drafts exchanged in code. Each transaction was a brushstroke in a larger portrait no one could yet see. Publicly, she played the part of the grateful CEO. Interviews, smiling photos, polite handshakes. In private, she dismantled the hierarchy brick by brick. Jordan, her assistant, handled logistics without asking questions. "You're really doing this," he said one evening as he organized encrypted folders. "Buying the company that tried to buy you." "I'm just adjusting ownership," she said. "Adjusting?" She looked up from her laptop. "Power is ownership. Everything else is performance." At night, she barely slept. She'd wake to messages from Monroe's team. Silent updates, each one a thread tightening around Orion's throat. Acquisition front complete. Filing diversion set for Cayman registry. Kane unaware. Each message was a small private victory. Yet she felt none of the thrill she expected, only focus. Her lawyer called late one Friday. "We've traced Orion's primary debt holders. Most of their leverage is tied to hotel assets, including the Grand Orion." Maya smiled slightly. "Then we start there." The next morning, she visited the Grand Orion, and not for confrontation, but for reconnaissance. The lobby buzzed with wealthy guests and soft piano music. The same front desk manager who'd once dismissed her barely glanced her way. She didn't announce herself. Instead, she watched. The rhythm of service, the subtle hierarchy in every interaction. The way privilege was invisible until it wasn't. Every polite smile was a power map. Every small humiliation, a currency. When the manager turned, she caught his eye, briefly, long enough for recognition to flicker. His posture stiffened, but before he could speak, she walked away. No words. No correction. Just presence. That night, her lawyer confirmed the breakthrough. Orion's controlling shares could be acquired through a silent equity rollover if done before the next quarterly filing. One signature. One wire transfer. Maya stared at the document on her screen. A simple page of legal jargon that could change everything. Her cursor hovered over the line marked authorized signatory. She hesitated. Not from fear, but from the weight of what it meant. This wasn't just business. It was rewriting the story that had been written about her. Her mentor's words returned, steady as breath. "Power doesn't shout. It signs checks." She signed. The next day, Orion's board circulated a memo about unexpected changes in minority holdings. No one paid attention. Not yet. Maya watched from her office window as the city woke. Millions of people chasing validation in systems built to erase them. She whispered under her breath, "Not today." Her phone buzzed. A message from Monroe, stage 1 complete. "You now own 37% of Orion Capital." Maya closed her eyes for a moment, letting the silence absorb the meaning. It wasn't victory, not yet, but the ground had shifted, and no one knew whose feet were standing on the fault line. The ballroom shimmered in gold and glass, the kind of wealth that didn't need to announce itself. Chandeliers glowed like captive suns. Laughter rose and fell in waves. and a jazz quartet played the sound of expensive indifference. Maya stepped into the Grand Orion's annual charity gala, draped in a black satin gown that caught the light like ink. Every head turned. She was no longer invisible. Not here, not tonight. Her invitation hadn't been requested. It had been sent. The irony wasn't lost on her. Jordan trailed a few steps behind, whispering updates through her earpiece. All major Orion board members are present, Kane too. They don't know yet. They will, she replied. A waiter passed with a tray of champagne. Maya took a glass without breaking stride. The bubbles hissed softly, like a fuse burning down. Across the room, Richard Kane was holding court. Perfect posture, perfect smile, surrounded by donors and politicians. His voice carried above the music, polished and confident. Maya watched from a distance, unseen in plain sight. The man who dismissed her in his lobby now looked like a figure carved from ego. Her phone buzzed. A message from Monroe. Acquisition finalizing in 48 hours. Keep calm. Don't tip your hand. She slid the phone back into her clutch, lips curling slightly. Too late for calm? Maya Thompson, came a voice behind her, when smooth, PR-trained, polite. She turned. A young woman stood there, the Grand Orion's public relations director. Nervous smile, hands clasped too tight. We met briefly during the, last visit. I just wanted to say on behalf of the staff, how sorry we are about that unfortunate misunderstanding. Maya raised an eyebrow. Unfortunate misunderstanding? The woman flushed. Of course, I mean the incident was regrettable. Mr. Kane felt terrible. I'm sure he did, Maya said. After the cameras showed up, the PR director's smile faltered. I just hope there are no hard feelings. The hotel has taken steps to ensure nothing like that ever happens again. Good, Maya said evenly. You'll want that policy updated, especially once ownership changes. The woman blinked. I'm sorry? Nothing, Maya said. Enjoy the gala. She walked away, leaving the apology hanging in the air like perfume that had turned sour. Later, Kane approached, glass of scotch in hand, practiced charm in place. Ms. Thompson, he said smoothly. A pleasure to see you here. I trust you're enjoying the evening? Maya smiled faintly. It's beautiful. You have a talent for appearances. He chuckled, unbothered. In this business, appearances are half the game. Only half? Perception drives value, he said, swirling his drink. You of all people know that, she tilted her head. Do I? He studied her face, a flicker of recognition surfacing. You look familiar. I should, she said. We've met. Right here, actually. You had your staff remove me from your lobby. The smirk froze on his face. Yes, that. That, she echoed, voice quiet but cutting. Seems smaller now, doesn't it? Kane tried to recover. I assure you there was no ill intent. Miscommunication, you understand how... I understand perfectly, she interrupted. Some doors aren't meant to open for certain people. Until they own the building. His expression faltered. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing yet, she said. But soon everything. The band changed tempo, a slow swing now, smooth and hypnotic. Maya drifted toward the balcony, the city glittering below like a reflection of her restraint. Jordan joined her, eyes scanning the room. You rattled him, he murmured. He's not the target, she said. The system is. And what happens when you win? Maya took a sip of champagne, gaze fixed on the skyline. Winning isn't the goal. Redefining it is. Near midnight, the gala reached its crescendo. Cameras flashed, glasses clinked, speeches rolled out like rehearsed theater. Maya stayed at the edge, unseen yet central. The quiet gravitational pull none of them could name. Kane took the stage for his closing remarks. He thanked donors, praised diversity in business, and quoted statistics he didn't understand. Every word was polished, hollow. Maya's phone buzzed again. Monroe. Final confirmation. 100% acquisition transfer scheduled. You'll hold 51% of Orion Capital within 24 hours. Kane's hotel portfolio included. She stared at the message, the meaning sinking like weight through still water. Power didn't feel like victory. It felt like silence. When Kane stepped off the stage, applause fading behind him. His eyes met hers across the ballroom. This time, he looked unsure. Maya raised her glass in a quiet, wordless salute, then turned and walked out before the applause stopped echoing. The night swallowed her, calm and deliberate. Tomorrow, She would own everything he thought she couldn't enter. The morning after the gala, Maya's world erupted, not from a deal but a video. A shaky cell phone recording hit every major news outlet before noon. The clip showed the Grand Orion lobby weeks ago. Maya standing calm and dignified while the manager dismissed her, Kane's cold voice echoing. Restricted means restricted. Then the camera caught her face, the quiet fury behind her restraint. Within hours, the footage had gone viral, headlines screamed across feeds. Black CEO denied entry at luxury hotel, later revealed as investor. Restricted means restricted. The quote that broke the internet. Orion Capital's new partner faces racism at their own event. Maya sat in her office, blinds half drawn, watching the coverage on silent screens. Commentators debated everything from corporate bias to miscommunication. Strangers dissected her expression frame by frame. Calm, angry, too angry, not angry enough. Jordan burst in. It's everywhere, Maya. CNN, Bloomberg, TikTok, even Forbes. I saw, she said quietly. They're calling for a boycott of the hotel. Kane's doing interviews and says it was an honest mistake. Maya's jaw tightened. Honest mistakes don't come with security escorts. Jordan hesitated. Do you want to respond? No, she said. Not yet. By afternoon, journalists camped outside the building. Paparazzi flashbulbs painted her lobby in white light every time the doors opened. PR consultants flooded her inbox with advice. Statements to release, apologies to accept, healing conversations to host. She ignored them all. Monroe called around 3. You didn't leak it? Of course not. Then someone inside Orion did, he said. They're trying to control the narrative before the acquisition closes. Let them talk, Maya replied. Noise hides movement, he paused, impressed. You're colder than I expected. Not cold, she said. Just done asking for warmth. That evening, Kane went live on television, carefully framed lighting, regretful tone. We deeply regret the misunderstanding, he said. At the Grand Orion, we celebrate diversity and inclusion. Maya watched in silence. Every word sounded rehearsed, every blink calculated. When the interviewer asked if he'd personally apologized to Maya Thompson, Kane smiled faintly. We've reached out. We hope to resolve this privately, Jordan muttered from the corner. He's scared. No, Maya said. He's protecting value. The interviewer pressed further. There are rumors your company is facing an internal audit after recent investment changes. Any comment? Kane hesitated, barely a second, but it was enough. His smile faltered. Maya felt the faintest satisfaction. They're closing in on him and don't even know who's pulling the strings. Later that night, she opened her laptop to a flood of messages. Support, anger, solidarity, outrage. A stranger had written, You didn't have to say anything. Your silence said everything. She stared at that line for a long time. It wasn't empowerment, she felt. It was exhaustion, the kind that came from being both symbol and person, from carrying a story that wasn't meant to be hers alone. She closed the laptop. The glow faded. Outside her window, the city pulsed, alive, blind, indifferent. Her phone buzzed. Monroe again. Tomorrow 9 a.m. signing meeting. Once complete, you'll control majority ownership of Orion Capital and its assets, including Grand Orion Hotel Holdings. Maya typed one word back, confirmed. Then she sat in the quiet, the hum of the city seeping through the glass. For the first time, she let herself remember how it had felt, standing in that lobby, humiliated under fluorescent light, security guards circling like she didn't belong in her own story. The sting hadn't faded, it had just transformed. And now, poetic symmetry waited on the horizon. The next morning, the media narrative shifted again. Orion Capital's CEO refuses to comment on viral video. Investors panicked. Stocks dipped. Kane's silence spoke volumes, but he wasn't silent from choice. He was trapped in meetings trying to understand how control of his empire had slipped from his hands. By noon, her phone rang again. Monroe's voice was calm, almost reverent. It's done, Maya said nothing. You own them, he said. All of it. A long silence stretched between them, not triumph, not joy, just gravity. Understood, she said finally. She ended the call and sat very still. The city outside kept moving. Sirens, car horns, the noise of ordinary life. unaware that something immense had just shifted. The same hands that had once been turned away from a lobby door now held the keys to every door in the building. And yet, in that quiet, she didn't feel powerful, she just felt seen. The boardroom of Orion Capital was a cathedral of glass and steel, panoramic skyline views, polished mahogany table, and silence heavy enough to cut through. At the far end sat Richard Kane, his tie loosened, jaw tight. Around him, directors shuffled papers, pretending composure while glancing toward the empty chair reserved at the head of the table. The door opened. Maya Thompson walked in. No entourage, no announcement, just the quiet sound of her heels crossing the marble floor. Every head turned. Kane froze. His voice came out low, forced steady. "Miss Thompson, this meeting is private." "Then consider this my housewarming," Maya said, setting her briefcase on the table. "I own 42% of Orion Capital. That makes me the largest shareholder. You're welcome to stay as my guest." A ripple of whispers moved through the room. Kane's hand tightened on his pen. "This is absurd. Numbers rarely are." She slid a folder forward, notarized contracts, stamped and verified. "Monroe Group completed acquisition this morning. You signed off 3 months ago, remember? When you wanted fresh capital to cover your bad quarter." The directors looked between them, realization dawning like cold light. Kane's mouth opened, then shut again. "You planned this?" "No," Maya said softly. "You did. I just walked through the door you closed on me." Monroe stood by the window, arms folded. "Per acquisition clause, control transfers immediately. The board will vote to appoint a new chair. Effective today." Maya didn't smile. She didn't need to. The vote was quick. Hands raised one by one, hesitant, fearful, resigned. Kane stayed clenched against the table. "The motion passes," Monroe said. "Chairwoman Thompson." For a moment, the only sound was the city far below. Kane spoke finally, voice cracking. "You think this fixes anything? You humiliate me publicly and you expect to run this company?" Maya turned to him. "You humiliated yourself the moment you decided who was worth respect, based on what you saw, not who they were." "I'm not here for revenge, Kane. I'm here for responsibility." He laughed bitterly. "You sound righteous." "No," she said. "Just tired." After the meeting, she walked the corridors she once couldn't enter. Employees glanced up, uncertain whether to smile, greet, or hide. The same marble floors, the same chandeliers, but now every reflection reminded her of how thin the line was between exclusion and control. Jordan joined her by the elevator. "You did it," he said quietly. "No," Maya replied. "We exposed it." "There's a difference." "You're trending again," he said, handing her his phone. "Black CEO buys company that once denied her service." Millions of shares, celebratory comments, corporate statements about diversity milestones. Maya scrolled for a few seconds, then handed it back. They love symbols more than change. Later, in her new office, she stood by the window. Same skyline, different view. Monroe entered without knocking. "Press wants a statement," he said. She didn't turn. "They already have one." He tilted his head. "Which?" "The footage. The silence. The acquisition." "That's the statement." He nodded slowly. "You're not satisfied." "Justice isn't satisfaction," she said. "It's accountability." Meanwhile, in the lobby downstairs, Kane packed the last of his things. Reporters waited outside, shouting questions as he exited through the revolving doors. The same ones that had once refused Maya entry. No security escorted him now. Just flashes, voices and the low hum of consequence. Back upstairs, the board issued a memo, effective immediately. Maya Thompson assumes executive leadership of Orion Capital Holdings. Within hours, the stock stabilized. Investors called it historic. The same networks that once ignored her story now praised her composure, her business acumen, her grace under pressure. But Maya knew better. It wasn't grace. It was exhaustion sculpted into discipline. She walked through the Grand Orion lobby one last time that evening. The same receptionist looked up, startled. "Good evening, Miss Thompson," she said quickly, nervous smile trembling. Maya paused. "Good evening." She glanced toward the framed VIP access sign still on the wall, polished, meaningless now. For a long moment, she stared at it. Then she turned away. That night, she sat alone in her office, lights dimmed. The city reflected across the glass. a million fragments of movement, each unaware of the quiet victory that had unfolded above them. Her phone buzzed with messages. Congratulations, press invites, partnerships. She ignored them all. Finally, she opened one from her mother. I saw the news. I'm proud of you, but I hope you can rest now. Maya read it twice. Rest, the one thing success never promised. She leaned back, closed her eyes, and exhaled. Tomorrow the world would move on. The hashtags would fade, but somewhere in another lobby, another woman would be asked to wait, to prove, to justify. Maybe she'd see this story and stand a little taller, and that, Maya thought, might be enough. Morning light spilled through the glass walls of Maya's new office, turning the skyline gold. The city below was already awake, buzzing with the aftermath of a corporate storm. Every headline, every broadcast, every tweet carried her name, sometimes with admiration, sometimes with resentment. But Maya didn't care about applause. She cared about exposure. She stood before the mirror, adjusting the collar of her charcoal suit. No nerves, no tremor, and only focus. Today was the post-acquisition press conference. The world would see her, hear her, and for once, listen. The ballroom downstairs was packed with journalists, cameras, executives, and more onlookers than usual. Banners read Orion Capital, a new era. Kane sat near the back under obligation. His once slick confidence was gone, replaced by the blank mask of someone who hadn't yet accepted that the ground beneath him had changed. Maya stepped onto the stage. The room fell silent. Good morning, she began, voice calm, clear, unhurried. This company, like many others, has benefited from brilliance, but also from silence. That silence ends today. Every flashbulb froze mid-blink, she continued, pacing slowly. A few weeks ago, I was denied entry to a hotel my company now owns. I could speak about irony. Instead, I'll speak about pattern. Kane shifted in his chair. Cameras swiveled toward him instinctively. This isn't about one incident, she said. It's about a culture that measures worth by sight before it measures by skill. About how power excuses behavior as policy, and how people like me are told to be patient, polite, professional, while the system stays the same. Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. The stillness made her words sharper. I'm not here to cancel anyone, she added. I'm here to rebuild a structure that no longer needs apologies to stay standing. Hands shot up. Reporters called out questions. Ms. Thompson, will Mr. Kane remain part of the company? Maya looked directly at him. Mr. Kane has tendered his resignation, effective immediately. He'll serve as an advisor until the transition is complete. Kane's lips parted. He hadn't expected her to make it public. One reporter leaned forward. Do you forgive him? Maya's gaze stayed steady. Forgiveness isn't the same as forgetting. The system forgives too easily. I prefer memory. Another question. Do you see this as revenge? She almost smiled. No, revenge is loud. Justice is quiet and sustainable. After the conference, the crowd dispersed into a buzz of speculation. Some called it visionary leadership. Others whispered that she'd gone too far. The truth sat somewhere between uncomfortable, necessary. Kane approached her in the hallway, flanked by two aides. You've made your point, he said bitterly. I didn't make it, Maya replied. You did. I just put it on record. He sighed. You think this ends with me? There'll be others, always. I know, she said. That's why I built something that outlives you. He opened his mouth to respond, but found no words. The silence between them was final, the echo of a chapter closing. He walked away, shoulders slightly hunched. For the first time, Maya didn't feel anger. Just released, weeks passed. The world moved on, as it always did. Stock prices recovered. A diversity task force formed. Symbolic, but a start. Maya worked late most nights. Her reflection doubled in the glass. Two versions of herself. The woman who'd been refused, and the one who refused to stay refused. Jordan entered one evening with reports. Investors are pleased, he said. Public trust's up. We're in the green again. Good, she said absently. He hesitated. You never took the corner office. I didn't need to, she replied. Power isn't about where you sit. It's about what changes when you do. Months later, she received an anonymous package. No note. Just a photograph inside. The old VIP access sign from the Grand Orion lobby. Cracked down the middle. She placed it on her shelf beside her first business award. A reminder. not a trophy. That night, as the city dimmed below, she finally turned off her computer and sat in the silence. Her phone buzzed again. Another interview request. She declined. She looked out the window, the skyline stretching endless, the city both cruel and beautiful. This was her reckoning, not a rise. Not revenge, but reclamation. For once, she didn't feel the need to explain it. She didn't need to prove anything anymore. Somewhere, in another office, a young woman watched her speech replay online. Paused at the moment, Maya said, "The system forgives too easily. I prefer memory." She watched that line twice, then stood a little taller before walking into her own meeting. Maya would never know her name. But that was the point. Legacy was never meant to be loud. It was meant to echo. 6 months later, the world had already rewritten the story. Headlines had moved on to the next scandal, the next public reckoning. The viral clips faded into digital archives. Yet within corporate circles, the name Maya Thompson lingered, not as a controversy, but as a recalibration point. Inside Orion Capital's top floor, the atmosphere was different. Laughter didn't echo as loudly. Voices spoke with more care. Policies had changed. Recruitment pipelines, reporting systems, leadership structures. Subtle, structural, exactly how she intended. But Maya, sitting by the window, felt no triumph. Change, she'd learned, wasn't cinematic. It was paperwork. Revisions, meetings, resistance disguised as cooperation. Still, every form signed, every policy enforced was another small rebellion carved into marble. Jordan entered, holding a report. Revenues up 12%. Media coverage neutral. Employee retention improving. Neutral, she repeated. That's good. Good? Neutral means the noise is gone. Now we can build, he studied her. You ever think about stepping back? You've done what you came for. She didn't answer right away. Outside, clouds drifted low, brushing the tops of towers. When I leave, she said finally, I don't want the change to leave with me. Jordan nodded. That's not about legacy. That's about systems. Exactly. Later that evening, she walked through the nearly empty lobby. The receptionist, a young woman with dark curls and careful posture, smiled nervously. Good night, Miss Thompson. Maya returned the smile. Good night, the woman hesitated. Ma'am, if I can say be what you did here. It meant something. My sister still shows people your speech, Maya stopped. Tell her not to show the speech, she said quietly. Tell her to show up. The woman nodded, eyes glistening. Outside, rain began to fall. Thin silver threads streaking down glass. Maya didn't rush. The air smelled clean, heavy with thunder. Across the street, a protest marched by. Small, organized, chanting for labor rights. Different cause, same rhythm of resistance. She watched for a while, umbrella unopened. Her phone vibrated. A message from Monroe. You're on the cover of Fortune. The woman who redefined corporate power. She didn't open the link. Some things were better unseen. The next morning, she visited the old Grand Orion site, now under renovation. The marble floors were half torn up, plastic covering the chandeliers. Workers moved through dust and scaffolding, repainting, rebuilding. A foreman spotted her. You're Miss Thompson, right? We're redesigning this space for community events and open mentorship programs. Your idea, I think, she nodded slowly. Yes, he smiled. Nice to see it coming together. Maya looked around, the stripped walls, the raw concrete, the smell of new beginnings beneath old mistakes. It's supposed to, she said. She wandered to the exact spot where she'd once stood, waiting for entry that never came. The memory was still there. The security guards, the eyes, the humiliation. But now sunlight broke through the plastic sheets, spilling across the floor. For the first time, the space didn't feel hostile. It felt hollow, ready to be filled. She whispered to the air. Restricted means restricted. Then after a long pause, not anymore. Her voice didn't echo. It didn't need to. Back at her office that evening, she began drafting her resignation. No announcements, no farewell speeches, just a quiet transfer of power. To Jordan, she left a short note on her desk. Don't protect what we built. Challenge it, every day. Then she turned off the light and walked out for the last time. Weeks later, articles speculated on her whereabouts. Some said she was consulting abroad. Others said she was writing a book. In truth, she'd gone home, back to her mother's small porch in Atlanta, where the cicadas sang and the sky had no skyscrapers. Her mother poured tea. "You don't miss it?" Maya smiled faintly. "Parts of it." "Which parts?" "The fight." Her mother nodded knowingly. "The fight never ends. You just learn where to place it." They sat in silence, the air warm and still. That night, Maya opened her laptop one last time. An email draft blinked on screen and addressed to no one, written like a confession. They think justice feels like winning. It doesn't. It feels like breathing after years of being underwater. Quiet, heavy, necessary. "I built something. Now I'll let others build more." She hit save as draft, closed the lid, and exhaled. Outside, the night hummed. Somewhere a new story was already beginning, maybe not hers, but born from it. And for once, that was enough.